Every time ships have prolonged stays at anchor or in port, it is an opportunity for the crew to carry out maintenance. In this episode, I'll give you a glimpse on how the ship's engineers pull out a piston from the main engine. This engine is a MAN B&W 6-cylinder 2-stroke engine. It has a 60 centimeter bore and a 2 meter stroke. A piston drawout for the main engine is a major maintenance task. It is done every 16,000 running hours and involves replacement of the piston rings and cleaning the piston crown. As you can see, the smaller parts and pipes have already been removed, and the engineers are now preparing the hydraulic jack to loosen the nuts of the cylinder cover. Simultaneously, a pair of engineers are down inside the crankcase. What you're seeing here is the loosening of the bolts of the stuffing box. These bolts are also secured by steel wires as an additional measure to hold them in place. Later, when the piston is drawn upwards, the stuffing box will be pushed up as well. A stuffing box is used in a 2-stroke crosshead type engine. It acts as a seal which prevents crankcase lube oil from going into the scavenge space during the piston's upward stroke, and also to prevent contaminated lube oil and combustion gases coming into the crankcase during the piston's downward stroke. Up on the cylinder area, the other engineers are starting to loosen the nuts on the cylinder cover. The hydraulic jack needs to exert at least 1,500 bar of pressure in order to loosen the nuts. Meanwhile, down in the crankcase, the piston rod bolts are now being removed. Upstairs, the final set of nuts are being removed. In a short while, the cylinder cover will be ready for lifting. Heavy lifting inside the engine room is facilitated using the overhead crane. It's a standard fixture on board ships. Once lifted, the engineers make sure to remove the connection pieces for the cylinder jacket before putting the cylinder cover on the ground. For this particular job, we have included replacement of the exhaust valve, which was due at 6,000 running hours, and the O-rings for the cylinder cover jacket. The top of the liner is now being inspected. The edges usually have an accumulation of carbon, but for this unit, it wasn't that thick. The piston cleaning ring is a bit stuck though, but we decided to leave it be and let the piston pull it on the way out. Temperature check, around 37 degrees Celsius. Not so hot as far as engine room temperatures go. Now we need to prepare the spare piston. This piston was pulled out from another cylinder last time. The crown was already cleaned, the piston rings replaced with new spares, and the stuffing box also cleaned and kept attached to the piston rod. The same thing will be done to the piston that will be pulled out today. It will be reconditioned and kept ready for use. We are now ready to bring the piston up to top dead center position. A push rod was attached earlier in order to lift the stuffing box. Here we see the jacket for the cylinder cover being removed. Cooling water flows through this chamber, so it is very important to clean the surfaces to maintain efficient heat transfer. The piston is now at top dead center position, and the lifting tool has been mounted on the piston crown. The piston is now ready to be pulled out. This is one of the most critical phases of the operation, as we have to make sure that the piston doesn't get jammed or lodged into any part of the engine, which could cause major damage. Proper coordination between those above and below is needed in order to do this smoothly. Remember the piston cleaning ring that we didn't remove earlier? Well, the piston did the job for us. Look at the carbon that has accumulated on the crown. This piston will be secured for now. It will be cleaned in the next few days. For now, the priority is to put the main engine back into working order. Meanwhile, on the cylinder cover, the fuel injector sockets are being cleaned and the surfaces refaced with fine grinding compound. The jacket's internal surfaces, as well as the cylinder cover's water chamber, are also being cleaned. Once the cooling surface has been cleaned, new O-rings are installed. After that, the jacket is reattached. It's time to go inside the cylinder liner to make sure that the walls are free of particles that may have fallen when cleaning was being done. After the liner has been cleaned, we are now ready to install the piston. Final checks are being done on the reconditioned piston. We started the cylinder lubricator to lubricate the liner. As with pulling out, reinstalling needs effective coordination from above and below. Once the piston lifting tool goes all the way down, that means the piston was positioned perfectly. We also need to measure the cylinder line. We have a special dial gauge measuring tool for that. The data gathered here will be recorded and kept as reference to determine the cylinder liner wear. Meanwhile, the stuffing box bolts are being tightened. As mentioned earlier, we also needed to replace the exhaust valve for this cylinder. Once the valve has been pulled out, surface reconditioning is carried out. Down in the crankcase, the piston rod is being mounted onto the crosshead. The piston rod bolts are tightened to a specified torque. After tightening, the bolts are then tied with steel wire as an added protection. A spare exhaust valve is now being readied into position. The U-type seal rings are installed on the bottom groove. Followed by an O-ring on the upper groove. The exhaust valve is ready to be installed. After tightening the nuts for the exhaust valve, the fuel injectors are installed. The cylinder cover is now ready to be mounted on the liner. Once the cylinder cover is in place, it is only a matter of tightening the nuts and reattaching the smaller pipes and other attachments. After that, the main engine is all boxed up. This job took us a little over 9 hours to finish. We were not really in any hurry because we had plenty of time to spare. That's the good thing about long port stays. You don't have to worry about having to finish the job quickly. You can take your time and make sure that every little detail is taken care of. Prior to carrying out any jobs, it is also important to have proper planning and a toolbox meeting. These will ensure that everybody is aware of their specific roles, thus reducing the chance of mistakes which can lead to accidents and cause either damage to machinery or injury to personnel. So we finally finished everything. Everything's done. Everything's clean now. Job well done to everyone. Okay, good job. Mission accomplished. See you next episode.